Hi, we're now moving into phase 3. Phase 2 has dried. You can see where it's a little bit splotchy in some of the areas where I was running out of paint. Let me show you this kind of up close. The drawer is looking, we have to adjust this light a little bit. But see all the texture and the roughness around the edges there. See that sort of crustiness there? That's what we're looking for. So I'm very happy with that. That's kind of what the rest of it close to looks like on all of the areas where we used the putty knife on that part. I'm going to try to pull this closer where you can see real good on the area where I'll be working. Let me turn up the light a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to our next phase, and I hate to cover up this color, but that's just what we're supposed to do next. Boy, I hope you can see how good that is. I'm going to hold it up there one more time. See how, there, that's a good indication of it. It's really chunky, more so on the drawer than anything else, but like I said, that is the focal point. And we're going to go ahead and put now Skeleton Key. I like the color that we have down here already a little bit more than this one, but you know what, we're going to see it again. That's the bonus point of this, is when we start distressing, we're going to do a lot of wet distressing, and when we start that distressing and sanding and all that, we're going to come back down through this layer to have some of this showing too, and then the apothecary is going to go on top of this layer to get it a little bit lighter and brighter. So that's the exciting part, is we're going to not exactly have these blending in together, but having them all showing up. This is the little brush, if you'll remember what they call it, the mini, the one that I used earlier for applying the poly over the weathered wood. And this is sort of a, looks more gray up there to y'all than it actually is right now. It's sort of a grayish blue. Looks definitely more gray when I'm holding it up there. But I'm gonna dampen the end of my brush, get my mister bottle, and now is when we have to be so careful, because if we get too much water on here, we're going to reactivate all of this, bring all that back up, and muddy these two colors in together and come up with a third color that's going to do absolutely nothing when we're sanding off the other layers. And I really want this to show. The other option right now that you may want to consider, depending on how important it is to you of how much of this color shows when you start distressing, we could stop right now and put a coat of Big Top on here, or another top coat before we put the next coat on to make sure that we're going to get down to this. But I want to go through this and get to some of the darker, the weathered wood as well. So we're just going to mist it. That's why you want a misting bottle, not a heavy squirting bottle. And on it's going to go. And we're going to do this just a normal length of it, you know, not a real heavy coat, not a real light coat, but we want it over the whole thing. We want to cover the color underneath, and any of the chips and whatever the names for the little gobbledygoos of paint that are on there, if they move around, we're gonna let them move around. You can almost tell at this point a little more of what the finish is going to look like under there. But see, we're going to knock the tops of all of that off and get a little more down into the other colors on there as it, after the last coat. That's just water in that cup, but I'm wanting to be really careful with it, because if too much water was to come off of here, get down there, make a ring on this, for one, it may show through later in another coat. For two, it's gonna bring up too much of a chance of it reactivating that lower coat and bringing it back up. Okay, did you see where the amount of color change up there? That's where it's damp. The back of this, if you'll remember at phase 2B, I was about to run out of paint. I did run out of paint. So none of that back there has a coat of our second color. It all is fixing, this is going to be the first color on it, but it won't, it'll still have a, you know, 3 colors on it when we get done, and it will still sand through and it will still look good. I made sure that all the sides and the front and everything else had everything we needed. Again, have to be perfect, but I am kind of wanting to mostly get down in these crevices and things like that, so that when we do sand through them later, there's plenty of this one to come off, you know, before we get to that one. Dipping my brush is starting to drag a little bit too much, so I'm dipping it back in my water to get the brush to flow a little bit better. Ta-da! Here we are. Now see the difference in how much more gray this is? Side, you know, not side by side, you would think they were similar colors. Gosh, this is looking so gorgeous, the drawer part. I hope I don't wonk that up. Missed a little. This little area here, gritty, gritty, grainy, grainy. And I don't believe, I'm gonna lean it forward and see if you can see that. I don't believe there's gonna be a way to zoom in to where you can see exactly how grainy that is. But that's where the sawdust and stuff from the original sanding was left on there and gave it a little bit of a grit, kind of like adding grout or sand would have done. My husband likes everything just so-so. When he thinks that, when he sees this, he's gonna think, oh my goodness, that woman did that without her glasses on. That's lumpy. There ain't a bit of smooth on that surface anywhere. I think I've said this before. See how fine of a mist this is? I like to get the areas that I'm afraid I'm gonna forget first, so that's why I'm getting this under here. Then I get the areas that are most important to have a good bit, like the areas where I know I'm gonna distress and sand later. See the difference? That's where there's still some water sprayed on there, and this has already sucked it all up. Just a little. Okay, I'm gonna finish this up, do these legs, do the whole back, and let this dry overnight, and hopefully, I will be putting a coat of this apothecary over this tomorrow night, and I will see you then. Thanks.